the granite in the Great Pyramid comes from more than 500 miles to the south. If you look at the famous King's Chamber, its walls and its roof are, the ceiling of the King's Chamber are all made with gigantic granite blocks.
Mainstream historians often claim that the Great Pyramid of Giza was nothing more than an elaborate tomb for Egyptian pharaohs. As the only surviving monument of the original 7 wonders of the world, the structure was built with exact mathematical precision and stands as a unique and puzzling achievement in construction and engineering. But there's a major issue with that explanation. The Great Pyramid lacks the usual features of tombs, such as ornate wall art, sealed doorways, decorative coffins, valuable artifacts, or even mummies.
Italian and Scottish researchers, mainly from the University of Pisa, conducted advanced high-frequency radar mapping under Egypt's famous pyramids. They claim to have discovered wells, caverns, and shafts that are more than 2,000 feet underground. If accurate, it changes the face of history as we know it.
What it does have is construction using materials that are still used today for their ability to conduct electricity. Because of these details, more historians are starting to believe the pyramids may have served a more practical role. According to this theory, the Pyramid of Giza wasn't a tomb at all. Instead, it may have functioned as a power plant, producing and distributing electricity to nearby communities. Sound too far-fetched? Universe Inside You invites you to take a closer look. To begin, we need to understand just how much effort went into building these monuments. Egypt is home to at least 118 pyramids, not even counting similar structures found around the world. Based on our current ideas of how early civilizations managed construction, it would have taken a minimum of 20 years and around 20,000 workers to complete just one of these so-called tombs. And even now, historians can't agree on exactly when or how they were built. This makes us wonder, what kind of burial site would require such a massive investment of time, labor, and precision? Even if we didn't know the pyramids don't match the layout of traditional tombs, just standing in front of them is enough to question whether they were built just to hold a body. We usually base our conclusions on the belief that ancient civilizations were less advanced than we are. But what if progress doesn't always move in a straight line? Could advanced technology be discovered, lost, and rediscovered later? Is it possible that an ancient civilization had knowledge of electrical energy? To explore this idea further, let's look at another case where power generation may have existed, only to be forgotten over time. Edison and Tesla helped bring electricity into everyday use during the 20th century. But back in 1934, in Iraq, 3 items were found together: a ceramic jar, a copper tube, and an iron rod. When paired with an acidic liquid, these components can create a chemical reaction that produces electricity. This artifact, now known as the Baghdad or Parthian battery, is estimated to be 2,000 years old. A decade after its discovery, someone managed to produce a small electrical charge using grape juice and similar materials. The experiment was repeated on Mythbusters using lemon juice, which caused an electrochemical reaction between the copper and iron, and generated 4 volts of electricity. Today, you can find step-by-step instructions online to build your own battery using the same principles. Still, many historians insist that ancient civilizations had no concept of this kind of technology, and dismiss the discovery as a coincidence, even though we've long admired artifacts with gold plating, which requires electrical current to produce. The truth is, creating electricity only requires basic chemical reactions, and anyone with 4 simple materials can do it. Now, let's consider some details about the pyramid's construction. First, the pyramid has tunnels that don't just lead inside. It also has shafts that run deep underground into unexplored areas. What kind of tomb needs a passage that extends into the earth? We also know that in ancient times, it had huge swivel doors weighing around 20 tons. Yet they were so well designed, they could be moved with just a light push. No other Egyptian tomb was made for easy access. So were these doors meant for repeated visits to the mummies? Or was it more likely they were used to seal off and insulate whatever was inside? It's not widely known, but the Great Pyramid of Giza was once covered in polished white limestone. These casing stones were cut at exact angles, giving the structure a smooth surface that would have reflected sunlight intensely, almost like a mirror. This outer layer also would have provided insulation for the interior. An earthquake in 1303 loosened these stones, and they were later taken for use in other buildings. What remains today is just the pyramid's inner core. The thought of sunlight bouncing off such a massive structure raises questions, not only about the visual impact, but also about the reason behind the insulation. Was it really meant to honor the dead, regulate temperature for mummies, or could there have been another purpose entirely? Next, the material dolomite was applied to the inner surfaces. Dolomite is known to boost electrical conductivity based on the pressure applied to it. Higher pressure results in a greater electrical current. The passageways and underground tunnels of the pyramids were lined with granite, which is slightly radioactive. Granite is rich in quartz, crystal, and metal, and it's commonly known as a conductor of piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity happens when stress or pressure is applied to quartz, similar to how some wristwatches can be powered simply by shaking. This granite can actually ionize the air inside the pyramid, triggering a chemical reaction that increases the ability to conduct electricity. When electrons are given a path through metal wires instead of having to pass through rock, large electrical currents can be generated. Another key material used in the construction is a unique type of mortar, around 500,000 tons of it, used to hold the massive stones together. Despite being tested multiple times, modern technology still hasn't managed to replicate this specific type of gypsum, which is sediment-based. This gypsum can handle extreme pressure and, surprisingly, is even stronger than the stones it binds. It clearly helped preserve the structure over thousands of years. But was its ability to handle high pressure the only reason it was chosen? So, limestone, dolomite, and granite, used in a structure said to be a tomb, are actually similar to the materials we use today to create electrical wiring. They also react to pressure in ways that increase their conductivity. Not far from the Great Pyramid is the Serapeum. Here you'll find 20 enormous granite boxes, each weighing about 100 tons. Traditional Egyptologists say these were coffins, but the granite came from 500 miles away, and the boxes are so massive they couldn't have fit through the current tunnels or doorways. This means they had to be built into the site from the start, and their precision is impressive. Flat within a 10,000th of an inch. Meanwhile, any electrical engineer would tell you that for a container to act as an energy capacitor or battery, it needs to be made from a single material to keep the magnetic field uninterrupted. Could these granite boxes serve that purpose? There's even a centuries-old granite sarcophagus in an Egyptian museum that's believed to be unfinished. But unlike the ones found inside the pyramids, this one is cracked. It might not be unfinished. It might have been abandoned because the crack would have disrupted the magnetic field, making it useless for whatever role it was meant to serve. All of this adds weight to the theory that electricity may have played a role, especially when you consider that the size of these sarcophagi clearly rules out any practical use for human remains. And yet, the accepted explanation is that these were used as coffins for sacred bulls. It's hard not to question who exactly came up with the idea of bull coffins. Adding more to this mystery, a hidden room was found in 1993 after staying sealed off for thousands of years. It looked like it had been deliberately closed off by the original builders. This room, eventually named the Queen's Chamber, was explored in 2011 using a small remote camera. But instead of finding a mummy, the team discovered copper wire arranged inside the room. Even more curious were the symbols painted on the floor, which looked like a wiring diagram. If you examine any battery, whether from a power plant or a small wristwatch, you'll notice they require a metal like copper to create a chemical reaction called potential difference. Running a current through copper wire creates a small magnetic field. Add another coil, and energy transfers from one to the other. A sealed room with copper wires could generate a higher electric potential on one wall, transferring energy to the other, and in the process, releasing electromagnetic energy into the enclosed space, known as the Queen's Chamber. Unfortunately, these wires are now gone, and mainstream Egyptologists continue to claim that the room has no practical function, just as they claim the entire pyramid was only built to be a tomb. It's worth pointing out that Egypt's most well-known Egyptologist, Zahi Hawass, was once indicted for stealing Egyptian antiquities. Still, one might argue that the electrical elements found in the Great Pyramid's construction are purely coincidental, since a functioning energy generator would still need an external catalyst. This might be why the pyramids were built over what's believed to be a powerful natural energy source. Underground rivers and aquifers. Flowing water could generate physioelectricity, and it's been confirmed that thousands of years ago, the Nile ran directly past the location of the pyramids. This leads to questions about the actual age of these monuments. The wear on the nearby Sphinx has fueled the idea that these structures may be twice as old as currently believed. That might help explain why there are no Egyptian writings referencing the pyramids or how they were built. If water acted as a source of power, it could have traveled upward through the limestone using capillary action, a process where water absorbed by a small area spreads throughout the material. Water passing underneath or close to the pyramid could have been drawn upward through the structure by this effect. The tunnels inside the pyramids contain quartz, which, when stressed or vibrated, can generate piezoelectricity. As water moved with force and pressure, it would be like filling a syringe, building electromagnetic energy within the structure through the materials inside it, sending it upward to what's now a missing capstone. But for what reason? The pyramid's exact location might offer clues. It sits on a spot where the Earth's electromagnetic forces are strongest, right where telluric currents are most concentrated. An electromagnetic field at the base could have risen to the higher levels due to chemical reactions. While we can't say for sure what capped the pyramid, some suggest it may have been gold, which would help explain why it's missing. If it were gold, it could have acted as a conductor, channeling energy up into the ionosphere. If the builders used superconductive materials to build the pyramid as an energy device, they might have unlocked something far beyond their time. Wireless electricity. Sounds unbelievable? One man insisted it could be done, and he may have proven it. Nikola Tesla, the man behind the electric motor, radio, laser, radar, and one of Thomas Edison's fiercest competitors, devoted his life to helping humanity. Even with his massive contributions, Tesla rarely receives the recognition he deserves. At the 1893 World's Fair, he transmitted electricity into a light bulb he held in his hand, and he invented the Tesla coil, which today is often used for show rather than its original purpose. What matters most is that Tesla claimed he had figured out how to harness and transmit free wireless energy by tapping into the planet's electromagnetic properties. In a patent filed in September 1897, Tesla said that at 30,000 feet above the Earth, there's a layer of thin air that can carry high-voltage electric currents. His system involved a transmitter sending millions of volts into the atmosphere, which would then be captured and converted to usable electricity by a receiver. In the last week of July 1903, people living near the Wardenclyffe Tower claimed to have witnessed Tesla's experiment in action. According to Tesla, the method worked so well that the sky lit up like a giant fluorescent bulb. There are even claims that he managed to send pictures and sound wirelessly. While most of his work has been destroyed, this part of history still raises questions, even if it can't be verified. Tesla's technology was taken shortly after his death. He passed away in poverty, and the U.S. government dismantled his tower, stating it was being used by German spies. If Tesla had been able to complete his work, the way power is distributed in the world today would likely look very different. Some have compared Tesla's technology to the pyramids, specifically their location, height, and the materials used, which are known to interact with electromagnetic fields. We've seen how induction works with copper wires over short distances. When it comes to long-range transmission, the same idea applies. If acoustic energy becomes kinetic energy, and the frequencies line up, just like how an opera singer can break a glass when the sound matches the glass's natural frequency. So, if a magnetic current is oscillating and you produce another current with the same frequency, wireless transmission can move through solid objects and across large distances. The frequency that might have been emitted from the pyramids would need to match the frequency of surrounding structures. This might explain the obelisks, tall stone monuments that could have acted as receivers, especially when they contain quartz stones at their tips. It might also explain the ancient Egyptian carvings that many believe show light sources. One example is in the Hathor Temple, the Dendera light. This carving strongly resembles modern electrical components, showing a wire inside a bulb-shaped area and a box that looks like a receiver. Nearby, there's another carving that appears to show the same setup being passed to a reptilian-like figure, possibly a warning about the misuse of such technology. Mainstream historians often dismiss these interpretations and offer more traditional explanations. However, the pyramids show no signs of soot or smoke damage that would be left behind by flame torches. Instead, there are carvings of antenna-like objects placed next to others shaped like the Ankh, suggesting a transmitter and receiver pairing. With all this in mind, it's easier to consider that the Great Pyramid might have worked in the same way Tesla envisioned, using electromagnetic energy directed into the ionosphere and sending electricity wirelessly to receivers within the area. The idea that the pyramids were simply tombs raises more questions than answers. Why do they not resemble other known tombs? Why were specific materials used? Materials that are known to conduct electricity? What about the oversized granite boxes that clearly were never used for burials, or are simply too large for human use? Why the alignment with the North Pole, the massive 20-ton swivel doors, and the complex internal layout with shafts and chambers still being explored? Why is there no soot inside? And why do the tunnels go deep into the earth? We still don't fully understand these things, but more people are starting to accept that the Great Pyramid may have served a very different and much more advanced purpose. We know the electromagnetic field around it spikes to levels comparable to what we see during electrical storms. From space, the pyramid shows its true shape: 8 sides instead of 4. There are unusual heat signatures visible only with special tools. The materials include conductive metals like copper. The structure seems designed for pressure and water flow, and it sits directly above telluric currents. The alignment with celestial bodies and the ancient artwork that appears to show wired light sources all support a different interpretation. All these details point toward the possibility that the pyramid was actually built as a compact energy generator and wireless transmission hub. If ancient civilizations really had this kind of knowledge about electricity, it would change how we view history. Could free energy be sent wirelessly around the world? And even if it could, would we actually be allowed to know that? Graham Hancock openly admits he doesn't know how the Great Pyramid was built, and he believes no one else truly does either. According to him, anyone who claims to have the full answer isn't being honest. The Great Pyramid is not just massive, weighing around 6 million tons and covering 13 acres, but it's also extremely precise. It's aligned to true north with an error margin of just 3/60ths of a degree. Its dimensions even seem to reflect the size of our planet. For example, multiplying its height by 43,200 gives the Earth's polar radius, and multiplying the perimeter by the same number gives the equatorial circumference. That number, 43,200, isn't random. It's linked to the Earth's axial precession. Hancock sees this as evidence of knowledge far beyond what we typically attribute to ancient Egypt. He suggests this points to a lost civilization. The pyramid's construction shows expert craftsmanship. Some stones weigh up to 70 tons and were raised over 300 feet. He believes the builders weren't slaves, but skilled workers with deep dedication. With today's tools, we still can't fully replicate their achievement using what we think was available in that era. For Hancock, that's a sign we're missing something important from our history. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you're new, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads.